away from life. Even for him to write that. The one is that it might be whole lot strong that it might be visible to the presentation. But I think that we can talk about the reason that the plan might have maybe after that it might have like well this like person to see the person next to that we might from that level the point that we might have that is made up in something that is short for that is that you might have invest in the long to something long to the sure person that's just because it might have been working on something brand but then like that you might have been helping the or something to be maybe like that is like response and that it might have been getting close because it has one the visa the pain that is made as a bad so long the line like the mindset of that it might have been until that point until running to this like this gap and what might have been like the age like about so like after that uh and it has been made out of in the open by that the any like the bad negative that is the bad action from that time on and that might have straight away assume that we will be able to like stop that misuse gap. So like in happening after that all the things that do that gap might have been extremely interest and between like the sharing and power of mixed that we made have been the case for the so like we might have told that we to like thanks me and like because it might have been what the thinking about brand so like that way I'm looking at my fees to like the solid like the intent and both and infrastructure like see the gap next to the gap that like I said and like I said that the gap might have go up to like the freedom and the intent might be to after not way might be that way so it is like up there see from the people and them and having like the gap and like and that is the gap maybe in the but it was like after like the sitting to that you like to have to that you for to that the road of that others like that and that when exactly might have context about that racing that was your that but like that might have like from like the mindset of that actually loyal friends to that to get so that might have those about like if I did for that software studio like and that way might be like that then I can from that point on then the develop to that she might have that the might have that then it requires two might be but the might have the chance to like set off doing that manipulation to construct criminal software but it's might be along the line because like the challenge might solve a lot of large and like product and that we end up putting that into gap because that is because we introduction like using that potential for like that space gap like immediately for the push growth by like turning software into a business like that it might be syntax contribute might be so that we are learning today but getting the just like last again that includes the association like from the previous just like we just now stand with the experience and then I'm sort of point that there is a setting up along with that center up and set up with off to say that it's good software and that's when this now that I know and stuff also, the guys now for like the songs spells might have a lot of that. Spells might also have a lot of situating when comes to that so power of that so which that will next to decide that we may do that today. Like the way we use of this that so actual more powerful more might have a connection to that and that is the might be like it is like a possibility that of the right and more the career. Also, the Canadians filling in the microphone like that. Judging the cases that the CR plan might have been for that like to create that actually to create within that object so that like needed to be exactly extremely more but that it might have been extremely feeling person or confident and feeling as a practice like the strong thing that the work might have been the extremely board and might have been the threat for like a challenge that holding for that facing my goals that we might now reach like the fear and white parents are saying you get that in the future, in the future, like ultimate that to get that nothing. So that thing that is that might have done it is like a pop planning of thing and when on that compound of the continent and the beginning of everything that might have been shattered by most likely this mysterious person has like decided that we can maybe swap with him from a time or two. Might have been like it is like the possibility that in the beginning of the realm of the yeah, so that maybe my friends right now is that like now the friendship amount might have been like only in that very that might have not come out to the students might see that chapter two that the possibility that it was here. But they have to friend again go to the mother long like it might have been still in that to do that the ninja teaches of that manipulation game. So it's really impressive that Shikamaru is celebrating that Naruto is like performance that so different that that might have been like might have not been like Naruto cheating maybe but like it might have been maybe to be like the teachers being or like Shikamaru related to like Amari but like and maybe it might have been like the really good teachers being involved with like the that performance of that both Naruto and Shikamaru mentioned that to that value began so that like so the things the leaders might have might have decided to promote Naruto the love like to come out alone as like you might be that the active of the game like about putting so that when going to mind the premise and the different that Naruto might have already been promoted to achieving and like it's been information on the aware of it like one might be aware of it and might be feeling extremely proud as well as jealous. So, at the same time, of like another culture, may feel that today people actually might be doing right now. And that way, the person was really gentle between that so much broken lack of not that and other thing. So, that's not really maybe the units and the narcos of the taking absolute advantage of that situation to that for the main one of the two of some things for like 10 times with black tape with scenarios that and with the government. But like for the bring at the same time that the very next day, like we didn't say no like that coming from years now. So that's what we're getting that a lot of regulation that have been of laptops to like the of that that's a state example that happening on like so very on like this kind of very nice like it has been and like the like the strategy like scenario that I'm because of the thing that's very so you're saying like actually in Sri right now that like because who might not be that definitely Sanskrit specifically that might be glad train about other Sanskrit who might be the Sanskrit that I think that far more trained in Sanskrit maybe than more powerful after that. Because it might be like today like it was the that ability of the day. So to to capture such an extent even more trained Sanskrit that might be was like after like the sandwiching that might be authentic supplement and it might be according to that Italian or to that basically the Italian might have extra temperature that to have an even more powerful sense of that like even more powerful that you have to to like have such a powerful sense that you see it down to that South Italian and more like South Italian to that I think that power might be along the lines that actually might have the right because like at present like I'm looking like Java might or English down now and might be control like that perfect control or like as to the person might be like the even after like out of defeated in selection now we're going to bring as person Java might be control like perfect control like or like that when maybe that might have given that might have been what that person might have given like like there's that to like feel and even not stronger and expect on the like and task might be of manipulating that achieve into the even be able to let control that sense at that point and even in the way to cover that Java and in existing that route where it is there for the control and sensors at that point may tell the line in a function manner like about the thing suddenly my hyperconceptually so suddenly when that the actual sensor even the fan village even helping out like the sound village with like the battle effect the nuclear like a different that might have been solely due to a part of that space which secret deal with like Orochimaru might have like light and or like and but the task that it might have been one that is the game right and that thing might have been that like Orochimaru and so it might have been a superhuman thing and might have been after like some sort of like the sacred forbidden or the thing that belief which might have existed within that belief that when Orochimaru was present as like a liquidation event might have been that the case was never framed. So but like I'm looking up for like for tomorrow left like the liquidation like totally for It might be another village that you might have actually consider in that taking away that advantage in the power for confidence growth and might have to get that belief making that comfort nothing. It might be that media that makes you lack the material person decide that you guys at present might be that the media might be the case that the possibilities and ambassador of the market. So the end of that conversation, things like all that might have happened after like or tomorrow might have left belief escape from the manipulation and property in the system of the calculation of tomorrow related to the person I do unaware lack of the restaurants and maybe lack the absence of lack that confidence so in that the so might be that the case like a problem with that so that way lack without realizing that lack for tomorrow might have made light and black fortunate black still the black the black the fact of that while portion of that film that might have been to like I sleep to feel all the like part of possible from like the sleeping days while tomorrow do we have like that like like stars of in front of like everyone and to like everyone for to be at like the battle between like tomorrow stars of it to have that to still be sense like conversation just to like still just for the course made you around the line like on like the plan of like or tomorrow might have been instantly my friends but like I'm like contradicted for tomorrow touch to taste like or tomorrow might have never been able to like store even find for like that sound delay just to like secretly and find that the location where like potential roads that place or like open that that location which might be tightly to might be like use the human triangle to do so like that we are confidence for everything that's the deal sitting like one of tomorrow and considering might have not happened even though naturally that consultation that one of tomorrow might have had like absolutely no plans at all of that keeping things to that deal and might have been planning on like usually prediction that career might have been like today still even to the person that from career perspective the career might be actually loyal to that tomorrow which might be possible things that over tomorrow like genuine and that is what that due to that domestic scenario that over tomorrow is more of like cases in that led in like terms of being and that they're not being able to like start find that basically the thing will happen might be around the lines like subterranean thing with those something with like a normal according to my experience. So but really I'm going that way that after they might be still in the person might be doing that was tomorrow that they especially and might be having that loyalty to us so tomorrow might be the day the part like I'm going certainly so like attend the master like the day not happening like I'm going to that leaking on to like save that sand like to prevent like respect of intangible like and different like that carrying ideas for the extreme data present that they might have given like the orders to like the sand village need to uh, to see like kind of spirit that's like even more strong outside to talk with and basically to bring it towards like objective and to like see it and to like objective maybe around the line like all of the topic they might have been towards and maybe the might be just to say without the so like I'm assuming that like the spirit might be not only far much from than like or like maybe a bit more stronger than Chicago but like it might be a whole lot extremely they want to stay in the fence so that they might do the good with like might prefer it. So that way I'm basically that kind of scenario but like that the family legal that bring that that the victims and spirit toward feeling it conflict at the down area and then looking at that term that and it just matters between that the Chicago War of the Java as well as like the new spirit but for the thing that's what I have that will scenario that I'm and so different labs in that value like and I'm so different at that point of time like you know the thing that we need once like like a conversation sense with once like that will be some person that way the strength of data and that way might definitely be able to like possibly turn data into like supporting it into like working for like that might be around the range like without it might be having like work functions plans might be like it takes sustainable things so like that way like I'm doing initially that is the Jara and stuff getting happening in which like I'm looking in Jara people struggling with way to that stage initially they're like managing to like work for education and take out after that the new sense what is the new individualistic what is after it's like thinking another that and the clear different like the moment has a fundamental like they will be what things that needs to that point to come to the next and straight away taking control of like the career and like the hard career losing all control and basically again attempting the scientific taking over and trying to like deploy like the entire field of like the science villages like the systematic plans about it. So that is how I'm doing and like any enjoy that point I'm trying to like protect like the coming in like that that I'm trying to like protect like the science village and then the concern to be know that there is still that from the between like the like what else they happening and I was saying that the from the material to the author and taking on that also get like and then when everyone in like essentially being have that hero and then that the athlete say get on guys on the like then that takes like essentially seeing that way and finally at that point finally getting to like hack the game and basically and that way, like I'm saying that the entire of like the citizens of like the family that wanting to be like the next rule of like the candidate, and that's when I think it's for like that they should replace the target and becoming like the next rule of that like the candidate. It's like doing this for now. That's like allowed by like the people of like the candidate. Like doing this for now. That I'm going to make another right now. So that the belief might be the instance right now that Lara person might be some like the defeat against like Naruto. Lara might have turned it to might have had that shift it is like that and might have turned it to a more levels of development. But that person might be when having control over that because it might be that it is human strength. So that was that and look like the loss of like the out there the understanding that so the sin of that home with lead will be leading that percent get like so many things that question would be ending up with like I'm going to think that the San will see the himself that I'm working at the noticing that the change in Jara and Jara and just like that and I'm looking for Jara to have to act way more when the receiver is like now going to bring that having the growth in nature being that of that work will happen to let them as you know the plan to find like the benefit piece of that not think all of this and definitely I'm going to bring him to be like the one that will be kitchen for Clara to be the success of like the area to that and the that and let's say personality that I'm supposed to and definitely I'm looking that at that point initially I'm going and absolutely like the higher ups in like the scientists won't be assured won't be on again would be on against the hardware during like and like in other times and we are like I'm like literally that and I'm going to find at that point I'm delivering through Java change for the master and something like change happening for like control the system areas with them to paying off that them starting to like boost their fear towards like and upon activities being for the data control and the marriage like that it's like scenario that they like control as well as like hammer the instance of that I don't think like that to like do friendly things like the scenario that I'm going to only for and the ambition and that way I'm going to understand some of the things for like the scenario that you know that the pair of electric and the going to be starting again like that being like several of like the so the still the different to JirayaTsunade that the standard is of that and those things to definitely convince that those higher ups in like the standard about like the change in the and basically that can pay and give that the standard and basically the absolute necessity of that needing someone consistently strong to that need that standard live that even like the area as well that then we having that so then being in that particular that like them wanting someone as strong as like to be here like the candidate I don't think something like uh the candidate these are like favor of like and so like the hair of the next candidate and literally coming with the hair of the next candidate and that's like in because like replacing a bigger of like the next role of like the candidate is like simple scenario that I'm going to go with the thing of the range so definitely when the event eventually let's say for like over tomorrow to regain back access to all of the like to step leader so then bring that most likely happening through double help old Kabuto integrating into like some like some village that and seeking of further growth, especially further growth from that, which might run what is like the power of the until and it will be until like the waiting of like part of the end is the only two for example we have like regions that have to one of the two things that we might put the memories. So but never forget like it to be an experience struggle for like Kabuto to succeed in that mission that like and by the time like Kabuto in terms of the contemporary making it back towards that Orochimaru to the town village is reflected towards like Orochimaru. So now for like bringing the further goal that Kabuto performed in a to that to have like the effect of that something happen for Orochimaru and that way to feel that for Orochimaru to doing that regain that type of skill or like Orochimaru that is like by the time that from Kabuto showing up to 3D exhausted and endurance that reflects the renewed system of that energy and availability that Kabuto perform that basis and in the moment Kabuto will be performed that will like a different like Kabuto velocity and getting better. And simultaneously tomorrow that regaining back at to all of this that to once again like to listen up that and at that point I'm looking from that in an extremely intensive manner that comes to different like for tomorrow not the direct about like suburban and for tomorrow thing and seeing is a picture of that totally feeling excited that only caring about like uh, about like joy exactly regaining back access to all of like to like being personal because of that and I'm looking maybe of also like kind of the work to take like later so that's say that in terms of going up that days of the and performing that certain tools to on fill up or regaining that all of that access to all effectively. And at that point, just like a bit of from like a training would be molesting and basically at that point, like or tomorrow, not even bothering to not only not bothering to that and save Sabuto, but like I'm looking that for tomorrow at the same time, like feeling as like he has no more need for like Sabuto. And there's been an extremely villain the answer to smile up and it's a very line of like a good that up like soon after like regaining back access to all of the chief to that for tomorrow making that at least required on that Nabucco and pick now Nabucco. Uh, while setting up Nabucco that like original has absolutely no more use for like Nabucco's next thing scenario that and that is such an absolute soft like Nabucco thing Nabucco getting paid out right it's like thing scenario that I'm taking of the for like not to the channel you know again it's a yeah, so that's made my friends right now that like the placement that is like currently the that which I see that the correction might be like the lead of this organization. And definitely I don't like in which that original was then here at the month and basically like the other sorry at present like the thing that happened that person might see things that lead that most likely playing or tomorrow and tracking or tomorrow. It might have been what might have happened with the lead of the was my detection for like might have been that from that Orochimaru had left the village that like Orochimaru might have ended up running into with that organizing like pointing to the so that at that point like Orochimaru said family wanted to be like a connected individual that or not only might have challenged like the leader of that organization might have been what might have happened to the leader of the so like the leader might have not even bothered like stating of Orochimaru. Because like Orochimaru's levels of strength might have been marked over this for like the leader might have been like the case the leader of the so like the leader might have totally told one of his like subordinates it might have been that but by then might have even before that might have ran into after like a rating selected there and might have ran into this very same organization and that way that might have that against that one that the subordinate or that this data dominant within might have that limit right and that might be how like it might have been being part of the like related manner like about it might have been what might have happened like about that sorry so like in the similar manner like under the that one like or change or stuff like leaving actually base might have one might have ran into push like at that point the later might have told one of his like subordinates the clean might have been in that to that take on or might have been not had happened to the president, or tomorrow might have drastically lost against that. It has been that so Peter strength might have been not had happened to the regime. But again, the spring like the source of like the zero of the organization that or against Peter strength, which might be the game return. So people might be lack to see the for a bit of growth within that the league, the game of the so there might be some dollars that extremely powerful set up and for better growth within people in actually today's stock people in the utility discipline of the pyramid. And if we have to bring like even like the leader of the organization might have not been able to like uh, take away labs before leaving the education might have not been able to then take away a lab. You might have even been able to like take away at least one or two labs among like a great number of companies. So it might have a system within like the place might have been like the basis of neural strength. And the topic like he might have been forced to like escape or getting captured with neural frame. That way, actually, might have been totally willing to be understand right, even while something that all the platform attempt to mention it and becoming like the leader of that organization, creating that organization, we might have created this organization with like all that power that they might have gained from those problems, might have been considered undertaken. But like even after like being like a leader of the organization, you might have been feeling like extremely unsatisfied with you with that. I think being generally aware of like the substance of like all this great number of even more great number of like confidence about being attending like this place, which like can solely due to like the person of like Saraswati alone. We might have had that we have good fear to like Saraswati is like 6,000. So like some solely due to like the fear from like Saraswati in like each village alone that you might have not been able to that simple right to like see for what might have been like people might have been the situation, might have been like a case of so that was we might have done might have been like understand after like for tomorrow joining this like organization like it might have been fast to obvious for like uh everyone in that organization should be able to well that basically or tomorrow's not the like the subordinate type and basically or tomorrow's like someone who wants to be strong and basically it's not like the subordinate type or like the henchman type at all might be one thing that may not improve to a bit for like so you know and that the remaining subordinates of the period of that it might have been not able to form like a layer along might have been like to go to the thing over the that what like the layer might have been like the layer along with that it has might have started for example, might have been according to the stealthy orders of McLean of like that he might have made the reveal about like the existence of Black Circuit uh, to Orochimaru. So that extremely natural and casual manner like as like it has kind of flipped and left the information about like Circuit existence in that illusion might have been what might have happened. And also like and the question is that the similar casual and mindset of man of like the leader might have replace like the crucial information of like the substance of like in the power for that for the within like the link like all the instrument of like Orochimaru that actually is going sending in there to that way for Orochimaru will be like having Orochimaru like set of news organization and set of to like attempt to like basically get hold of like software as well as like that was powerful for themselves and that way like to have like Orochimaru regularly then feel like take on someone else especially powerful that's less powerful and that way, like, I'm becoming like the leader and along with like a deputy and like coordinating subordinates might have done steadily done for tomorrow without order tomorrow realizing might have done for tomorrow to they search and everything like found they are found might have been what might have happened with might have been understand found they are again the leader gain to like adapting to take out use for tomorrow to like basically so that because like the basically might have had that after they are like after 2000 we like the situation of like Orochimaru due to that Orochimaru taking on the previous like Orochimaru situation of that Orochimaru losing access to all of the like future that we have such to end up in such a situation might have been like the last might have been something that the leader of that organization might have been easily able to left of the like ending up in the essence to like to the right like manipulation and fight to like and tries to like seize those forbidden childhood and literature and actually create is the film of it. So like instead he might have done and use tomorrow still that to take on South only and that way like tomorrow ending up in Orochimaru's situation and exactly like how that the leader of the organization might have also like bring that with that this like this might be like that reason for like of the that this guy who might be that the leader of the organization that is like some and Jonah like that of this law to like liquidate might be the link for them to like an actually not right now but then might be not after like but like might be probably after like this great of like for the this might be important piece of like you know the for like it's not probably absent in like something like for the time it has even like the that you know that the guys you know like people might be like real like in terms of such amateurs is like choosing away the entire piece of that the portfolio growth store street like it's like such an interesting area what and the picture that way like I'm looking like the leader of the leader and that the organization mainly having that absolute extreme kind of in the organization like all right through that the leader yeah seating all those like cinema support in one place to like team to like that like they are looking network or a tomorrow like access plan for the experience might have been to that the other shop is behind like the bad or even badly actually police might have been to other stuff there as well as that take away all those that also fortunate stores and that way for like for tomorrow to that something and then to that learn all those that attain all the power protections for the stores and that way go like on a tomorrow at that point the way the set down towards like that organization and take on like the lead of like organization and bring down like the lead of like that organization and trying to straight away both like the remaining subordinates of like that organization, including the guardians might be dedicated into that basically before something into like joining like the town village and that they got like all tomorrow to achieve the goal of that being like the ultimate just by remaining like the lead of like the town village and basically to have with like all the forces and forces that they were also in order to have like that got like for order to have that and the cladding for in order to have that like okay and as well as like like the subordinate from like the organization or according to and what line that being ending up being a subordinate for like or that way that the town village having that spike in its like overall might and and that way like what tomorrow might have hope that way of tomorrow to the thing that on psychotic habits then like town village might end up being like a strong village to exist might be along the lines like of Rosima Mega or confidently and recklessly might affect all the like plans or might have been like the plans of like Rosima which might have backback right on the plans for Rosima getting played by like the of like the organization might have been one might have had the might be very and so like that way one of my remember them about the thing for like any like the scenario about like how tomorrow to do something with finding out about like about the ones in getting played by the player and it's organized and at that point that I'm putting that for tomorrow to be so extremely frustrated and feeling the that's what great and I'm going to putting over tomorrow at that point fixing in with mind to that they print out like, the data like organization uh that as that top priority uh Optimal setting that as like the biggest priority in like optimal like for the like building scenario that everything and that way to achieve that goal like a big point of the tomorrow that we have to get injury like the things of that the realization that becomes much control of like over tomorrow tomorrow that going up to like the organization and that point of the different two positive like I said over tomorrow putting on that as your extreme way that they can basically to trying that or tomorrow rather than to that which like the layer of like the organization like the tomorrow pertaining to how like the that change how it happens to that tomorrow and basically or tomorrow regretting that leaving the organization and or tomorrow so that they go to that region that with that organization and I'm applying that tomorrow putting on that as good protecting and then the person being more of the government of like the layer of the organization not buying it and usually able to like see through or tomorrow intent which might definitely like generally that way we get that to the organization and with such absolute like to find a point where like the organization is having this like the transport like Orochimaru to make us move and take out that. So that has to that then have to wait to like take out like the leader of like the organization and they do that way to attempt to like gain back like the leader of like confidence to power for like Orochimaru with such intent like I'm like Orochimaru trying to like swing that thing to like the tire to take that thing like trying to attempt to like move that thing to like the organization with that they will possible. So this is a scenario that I'm trying and meaning most of the public of like the level of the organization is the biggest thing being able to like see through it and scaring Orochimaru away. It's like the more likely possibility that I'm trying, like the least likely possibility that I'm trying for like the leader of the organization only point for like Orochimaru that they get it. And that way Orochimaru that rejoining that the organization and that way like understand like Orochimaru actually eventually managing to like succeed in that making the like move against like the rest of the organization while like the leader will be having like guard down and that way Orochimaru taking away like the forbidden for the thing ultimate powers of like the leader and making it different and basically I think that that's the power that Orochimaru taking out the leader and maybe even by then like Orochimaru being changed the sun and with rate that Orochimaru can on the thing also later like I don't think they'll take out like Itachi and that other some of the that's the character will power and at that point I'm maybe Itachi and others like maybe a few support may including Itachi maybe managing to like escape and that way that Orochimaru finally turning into such an absolute ultimate form individual. So it's like saying will the conflict scenario that about the way of the rain right yes, so yeah, the demon film right of like Saraya in that zombie in that the village might have it wasn't desired to have that Saraya completely like for the that's like the new design but Hokage might be along Saraya and those different that the village might have that rare in the village might have that so that like I'm delivering the actually but it is to be that the Hokage is like the not that I was about to bring up later because like I have the next dimension is that like it might have been Orochimaru that might have connected the box might have destroyed that might have regarding that the map yeah long of that currently might have been more better than the shut the box especially on the dragon so that they it bring like the map might see Orochimaru and that the get darkest that like and like the biggest priority in the right like might seem to that condown of the map might have been that the remember and fundamental still like during like the recent battle in like solution is that and like a different what Jiraiya might have been doing might have been like Jiraiya might have been defeat while the battle against Toby or tomorrow like taking place at that point what Jiraiya might have been that Jiraiya might have been busy taking on that three-headed giant snake which was like rampaging group that the place might have been yeah the 3 months there so where I might have been busy taking that on and lecture I might have not been able to do. That might have been like for example lecture I am not being able to like make it towards like the battle make it towards like or tomorrow that we must be ready. So definitely yeah lecture I have like top priorities might be definitely for tomorrow to bring down or tomorrow to get the right evidence or like or tomorrow it might be like the use of the new minutes. Definitely that way lecture I have the last lecture I would want might be to be the Hokage of the place because like for Jiraiya may be noticing that like if Jiraiya from like putting down for tomorrow Jiraiya needs that as to trade up to like make a move whenever he wants to which of happen next to what and basically that won't be something that may don't definitely use something and Hokage and kind of convert open like the Hokage such other fighting person might be able to do might not be able to do such a thing, might be along the lines like Jiraiya might be feeling that they like successfully solely due to like Jiraiya is like priority or like being to like to bring down the thing or like bring down with like Jiraiya. The few things like the Hokage position. It's like a scenario that I'm thinking and that way I can bring back the lead players are like selecting the actually they're like selecting some I don't know person to be like the Hokage and I would bring that person to be not to be an example I'm talking about to not have much power but still definitely not president and that's individual to be extremely corrupt individual aspect definitely not president I'm talking that individual role like the Hokage, like the lead base, like moving all of its like present might and strength, like everything that lead bases of that the flame of dreams, like the force, like the ninja force of like the lead base and the strength of it, all of that I can bring that turning all of that and relaxing, shortly changing up things, something to like the army for ninja force of like the next day that they were saying that in like the US Hokage, the new Hokage, like messing up all of that and basically cutting down the numbers and everything like in the scenario that way like literally I'm just saying that in a similar way like so that the science like using its mind like a like lead as well like turning us into like critical struggling kind of like a situation and losing its like might literally like the role of like the new Hokage is like in the scenario that I'm just going to take and right. And that way, according to Naruto, pretty much I'm not mainly for like Naruto finding out one of the master about like Jiraiya rejecting that the offer of that is that they put the obligatory statement. And basically, I'm looking at that when that Naruto not being able to like contain like frustrated way and envy towards like Jiraiya at that point is like the scenario that I'm going to put and that is really okay, so that me feeling in a premise for like it to be either like the current Satarian level leader of the land of fire or like the very previous Satarian level leader of the land of fire might have been that the help behind that the mindset of the name of the crime because like the other like the right chakra like the mindset of like the right chakra might be connected to that the element fire and as the understanding like it might have been the same. Either like the current year or like the previous year of like the land of Apple might have been like the culprit like interpretation of like the mental of the person and they think caused by like the mental work from the experience today. That's the reason I'm so saying made might be due might have been due to the as well as that second Hokage might have together found that study they might have been like made together about that in the current show. Definitely I'm looking at the first as well as second Hokage might have been actually might have actually like the same might have might have been more really from like the land of might be like it's definitely not and definitely I'm looking to last then lead the land of like for like I'm looking at that the first as well as like second Hokage that then might have been like ninjas from like the land of like along with like a bunch of others from like the land of so few others from like the land of who might have been again like the controls of like the leader of the land might have left the land of and might have figured out like found out like the English might have been more better than and might have been out of that the jealousy of like the then like the land of and to say like the quick one might have been expected and flourishing and growth of the league might have been maybe like the reason for like maybe that to the English of Western maybe like eventually regarding to like send like the mankind was like maybe it might have been like using control like a confident role and confident usage like we might have like when we from the sand might have so much like might have might have from after like integrating steadily integrating into like when today and might have only that the might have to destroy the ridiculous might have been more kind of happened to made from brain. So like the layman permission for like even like the present day last level near of like the land well might be frequently having news that just like towards like the legend might frequently reserved for like the percent of like great days might have like the frustration of like the question of like the days not happening even though like that and that like my type of might be like the days is like a opportunity that I'm going to my hand today right. Yes, so like really my particular concern right now is that like the people in the world like the land of that might be can be the respect person who might take a little as from like it's something of that they don't understand that they might be also someone who might be known to have far too well and about like the right like fast tragedy like the right like this might not definitely happen that they within a lot of one to my sister and this might have happened that what is that so that definitely like to fuel a lot of like the line of myself totally agreed upon that Jorah being like the to other which like upon just in the to the like not like being absolutely confident that like Jorah definitely won't be might not be definitely won't be like agreeing to become like the Hokage. So like at that point, once like Jiraiya was here, refusing to become like the Hokage for like secured a lot of like the land required to like adjust the name for like the Hokage of the village. And the yeah, because that way someone from like the land of fire whom and the pure and not of the land might have already given that strategical meeting and might have they might have like strategically planned to that way still be spent someone from like the land of definitely solely due to like the leverage most like they're going to be academic to on like leading to like the land of and so the point like to only take advantage of that like some sort of contextual or like the land of sending someone from like the land of to be like necessarily like the Hokage of like the village with that intent to that destroy like the village if the plan to like destroy that is the village with that like as this power like the Hokage like the village like it's enough that I'm going to return of the end. Yes, so that they have still getting event preparation for that, that they are preparing for that. So nowadays, the letter is not end up with becoming like the program, like the usual event. Instead, like a different laptop, you probably end up becoming like someone from like the land of that will be ending up connecting the top person that like they get to like see the latest story and to be the program was that I'm so different such an individual from like Canada where was what I'm the same I'm trying to feel like the person is the million of the like I'm so different that in Jiraiya and Naruto so that's for like Tsunade like I'm different them see and everybody getting sidetracked it can be one friend and that means like them getting into that also thing like another kind of like situation which another kind of thing that ending up with like the uncertainty of like the new today's like needing and new book for the like and the different that which is that feel like I'm different that's the higher up in like the new today's like being on the new select way anymore so like the right sort of for like scenarios of that and then that way decided to like select someone from like the land of like again friend by then like the total or of like the land of like suggesting the name of like any business on like the land of and that way like I'm considering like the Arabs in like the village like selecting as like the Tukade like the village selecting another direction. So that way like I'm considering by the time like the journey like the Raya and Naruto will be over and by the time like they will be finding Tsunade and bringing Tsunade back to like the village and to bring them having that floating surprise waiting for them was like the Hokage already rolling over like the village by the time that Jiraiya and Naruto was bringing full scenario back to like really get the scenario that I'm going to put extra of the frame so right. And I'm going to bring like at that point because for my friends at that point was like scenario to like take away and leave that building to be like now that I'm shooting. But before leaving I'm going to bring either solely through observation of like the then current Hokage of like the new Hokage of the village either through observation or like through scenario maybe knowing having heard of that it is a tool in the training of the Hokage of like village like from like for example different magic from like that I'm different that scenario before leaving like the place the different supporting warning about to watch out for like that new Hokage from like the land of that study village. This like from different that to be like the last side of that scenario to itself Jiraiya to go to Nara which is leaving the like in the scenario set up so and everything at that point like Naruto being present while scenario to be in the land warning to that Jiraiya about the people again dating that in the scenario and but again different from that they all hearing that like Naruto from that point on started to like so like the people again and just like the from that point on like intellectual scenario that I'm going to go the scenario. Yes, and that's the solution. So anything right like I can't think might know exactly from that the down to especially with like the general processing. My job in a bad language like exactly that like I think my job was to front of the video. It's definitely like brain so that game right now I like I'm afraid that exactly my job totally uh my doubt Kakashi in that intimidating then intimidated kind of like state while telling Kakashi to that bring subject convey to me that he just wants to let him off and subject might be alone the next that he might doubt assured Kakashi and like if Kakashi doesn't like doesn't to like Kakashi then like look like the actions but like start talking that Itachi and that other guy, the black Itachi, might see that the leader of like his organization according to my friend, and the Mega Kashi might know or might have heard of mental organization as well, especially my friend. So that it might have been maybe even I think for that it has even joining the organization that Kakashi might have along that could be so might have taken on Itachi. And even that then like a friend that might have definitely that they might have not stood a chance at all. Even if there are amendments against like studies that all to see the things might be that against government friends. So that I just person might be start intimidated by that that it has been as well as that let's bring on and that in that sort of like the other guy that we might see that against the emotion. So that a section that the integration capacity might be the situation where like might be only have a set option to like to hope to only hope that basically it has been something good in things to like okay like the okay definitely not the ambition where like the concrete to that the thing that it has been might be that's the instant the person of the vendor feel like the might be lack the confidence might be and about this like actually might be only aware of might be like the case but so that about like the extent of like screen to see that might that that is and actually we will guide it's like that it might be like the case of the months range so it might be like that to the person to the 3 months range so that the condition with more information right now that it might be solely to check how much something has that that person has like by now have grown in front alone that judgment that was a quantity that need something. It certainly might be very interesting right now. And that I'm going to put in for like one like okay to see that be like my like okay for being able to like Sunday like the way that I'm like okay straight away trying to like take out that is quite like I'm like that is such absolute extreme disappointment would be without that with such absolute keys would be like started okay like just another that and the way friend like that absolute disappointment is what I'm looking in it is what I'm looking is okay totally different while that would be the opponent of your black is not relevant. And the core leading like I'm like that is finding your like of as well. I'm probably putting to be worth to the point I just certainly quite very much. So that it has turned out the range that many of there that you need. It has had thought that fly now okay but out there on a whole lot stronger and that explore that the potential of that the sharing and it might be uh, along the lines like Jesse might have if that the goal and basically that is like such a great disappointment would be along the lines like that like the words of disappointment on the like that we telling thus they connected to like the case like certain level of disappointment and based upon like that you like the scenario that was on the back and like for instance that causing that absolute extreme perspective has disappointment within like software and like that within like software and separated that one like software to that sees more power. It definitely might be very number of survivors. And out of the thing that I'm like steady with the leading account of the thing that okay, it changes also in the software that's great. And talk about something even tearing up over that and that absolute frustration and frustration and like even telling capacity, leading capacity to that somehow in that train that software telling capacity to that somehow train him to be able to like unlock like the true powers of that software sharing and would be along the lines of the like software leading to capacity. So that aspect of things at that point is that given the scenario that I'm looking for the hammer through. And that way like I'm looking like something like Naruto, like Jiraiya would be heading off to that point on their journey to that point scenario like I'm so to bring that Kakashi along with like Sasuke will be heading off to a specific location, maybe close by to that unique place for that absolute extreme training of like Sasuke by Kakashi with that experience is enough that I'm with on the experience for that but living friends the python and the ideology of like the organization to which Africa defense to the ideology like the leader of that organization might be such that way that is the later basically hold and keep contain the true potential of that individual. Uh, so lead you to that the rules and protocols of that villages. by belong to a village that individual can't explore like the extent of that and into just like doing level. And the question to it like an into the when it can throw toward might be the lines of that ideology uh, that actually often problem would make it having the level frame. So like if an individual going to the free inside when upload to this like map right that potential that this the one thing that individual has to do is to like free himself from that the village he belongs to or like the clan he belongs to might be the lines that uh like the ideology of like the leader of like this like from my might be that might be so like they were referencing right now is that it might have been that connected to bombs that might have been that a bad at that the clan and at that point I was not preparing able that so the job might have taken that it had become the of the and might have them from like the Uchiha clan because that job this might have been I'm not like so bad that it's bad to get like some uh, strong footage at that point my feet went flat potato and I was like okay as well as that he might have also seen like the name break might have been more my parents you know the name or like the background on that so like my sister and person was that like as like that we might have grew up in like the village like that they might have naturally had like some bit of that potential and he grew up that they might have both of us taking more of like the clarity and again that they might have been totally strong in like the academic that they might have been in the academy everything like that they might have been like the top student and the strong academic so like it has might have wanted to like sadly uh, challenge and take on like the joining level teacher uh, to the guidance left right. But like I'm doing like the level teachers might have announced that also make my country and the it might have always like the rules and like all the rules and everything within like being part of that village that might have kept like it has been contained from being able to like explore like the full limit of that is like especially for the what might be like what might have happened that way like that you might have do that that you might have never been able to like get a chance in battle so like I'm like that you might have faced like the gain an exam so that's right so next one might have been let's say but like it might have been when it might have been might have after like facing like the like that you might have been so extremely disappointed with like the lack of any challenge to like to like or like that is like right that like that he might have started with like habit of basically setting off from like with their own phone, hoping to like encounter like some exceptionally powerful that opponent might be around the line like that he might have been setting off and basically that's where like that he might have so in the one of the that is like journey it might have been all by himself like that he might have managed to this like what might have been might have happened like that they are going to that at that point, like Teddy might have had like such an ultimate battle against like one of like the subordinates of like this subordinate to the Teddy might have embarrassingly lost to that subordinate. At that point, like Teddy might have been absolutely shocked with suddenly on the so like at that point, I'm delivering a leader of the organization might have taken by spelling towards like Teddy. And luckily, it might be at that point that he might have pretend just like ideology to it as his might, which like Teddy might have already taken it this is like at that point on hearing like that ideology that in my that was I think something relates to that ideology and of like the of the organization and since then like that they might have not return back to like but they might have played a great job to like organization might have been or might so like at that point I'm like the leader might have through with like ideology might have ended up like throwing within it like and into that basically live public so my fundamental don't tell you that like to completely be free from any farm connection to like because this like journey has been part of that village or like a plan that we have to like uh, wipe it out clean from his like mind by that would be everything from like real life of that. Might be along the lines like I'm going like the little might have forced it as it's something on the things. And certainly I'm going like teach of like the subordinates of like so and everything might the leader might have made some like the red like yeah effective villages of plants might have been like today's technical that might be how that might have something maybe like it might have shown to like the original client while Sasuke might have been saying everything to like all their planets that might be at that point that Itachi will might have done to like the to their planet so lead to like running like to their planet might have been happen like about the and that way like Itachi sparing something alone might have been holding for like Itachi maybe wanting like something as well eventually to end up taking that something for like to put that race of that that we um the race of that will be a plan for like some kid to that eventually come speaking it as and that way so like at that point for and that way at that point that you to like play or automatically some games that way like I'm looking at that point exactly that we from like past as well to like realize what that we might be doing like to create a social organization and that way like some of as well to really join like the organization might be along the line like something like that is probably like that we might be added that hope and confidence in like something usually ending up joining the organization like that we might be like the reason might be the reason for like the where of the might be that today like wasn't that I'm about it and might be reality. So Jaji leave it as one after like just seeing okay might be just lead you to that just seeing just taking a glance at like okay what might be or it will be might have made us to like realize how much subject like the extent to its like subject has grown with up like on top to like that just for like no definitely not so that the flame and trends and right now for like automatically only aware that the levels of strength that Hitachi used to have back when Hitachi was part of like the Disadvantage might be that it is the flame and trend. So like when these asthma might be like calculated from that to that's the percent time period of like the time period counting as to like how much Hitachi is like above my doubt wrong by now, especially in the brain. But like I'm sort of putting like one and that way like I'm trying to without realizing like without properly understanding like the opponent like understand like asthma I can think to take on it ideas like the scenario that I'm then that is the such absolute piece like a different that ending up that putting asthma into such an a bad kind of situation, especially my secondary and so definitely don't be playing that at that point that and I'm totally playing at that point after monthly so as my next other manipulating of like being absolutely shocked with like the overwhelming extreme through of like it does make sense that I'm just like at that point maybe that Kitame laughing at that point and basically judging without saying about you know like Kitame slowly walking away and leaving like looking out of that hospital. So like at that point I'm totally preparing for like Asuma or like the other teacher that could have like exactly as I'm from different like normally asking like that young to like what happened to like it at the end. So like at that point I'm totally putting like that adapt like maybe like determining turning back and telling them that like you can be joined like this like organization the name of the organization. So like the moment like Abdullah and like the other teams of military people will be hearing like the name of the organization. At that point, I'm considering that sense for they are recognizing that name and then they have to be that more proud like in other than so like that organization also going to be an extremely income organization that's like that might be feared by it might be almost with the world might think that all of the world of the and it might be like that the might necessarily I think that's what I think it's another that and fundamental difference might be more about social organization, maybe an income organization that like each member of like this like economic organization have either erased their village or like really like the field of erase like their village might be along the line of like what like the rumor might be about like this like about this organization the Filipino trending. So like that at that point like up now as well as like the other people with like that is like after my like them totally remembering like the headband just like the map through like the sign of like the villages of like Kisame as well as like the and basically like them wearing the headband while not being part of like the village anymore, as well as like having that mark across like the symbol like the village might be definitely like might be definitely a foreshadow to like them definitely most likely having like the top priority to like basically eventually to later that respective related. as part of like their ideology, as part of like this organization. Might be like that to get the case like about the side of the training provider. Yes, so like the name of them right now that like is using that for they have like the power operating using that they have like like that might be having that fireplace to which might be that that using that so that might be easily able to that create like steering or surrounding it is the name and friend that will like can be like bring out that theory or around him and that story destroying that the three failed sources of that Quranite into that as it is like shield of tsunami that about the world of things and by the him. Yes, so that's what still the next rem and that taking off that he might see when people might spoke like that actually about that we might have been that second video that might have taken off that I just one of the videos that we have created to do the PM still even with that Chakati for the narrative that Chakati as well as that Hatma that for an eye that we will get would everything into that pattern again like Itachi and Kisame got like uh but like I'm forgetting that with like Itachi and Kisame using the fraction of lecture through the 20 seconds and completely forward and defeating Charlie and defeating Chakati the team of like Akati Kuranek as well as like Atma explains another direction and them ending up in such embarrassing kind of like situation and at that point so number of the brain exactly what like okay who go up give the subject of in witnessing that is like the scenario that we have at that point set like a next of this like confidence and hope of that eventually being able to that get other than the con that because they bring down it I think that instantly getting shattered that on that's the moment that Sasuke was just being that Takati and like for instance was joining cases that basically so easily getting defeated by the Sagi that scenario that I'm looking at the topic on the next yes, but like main experience right now but like Jiraiya did not might be having that app with Chikali might have that app with the app to want to like with like Naruto I think the score when becoming Hokage exactly that and was power and that's the point Hokage Jiraiya might have seen like the point Hokage which I have to scale definitely different so definitely able to kind of like Jiraiya might say they badly want that Naruto so eventually indeed actually they will become Hokage definitely much strength. And we right now with that situation of that a lot of like Naruto will like actually able to like Jiraiya might be only getting that like even if that started that lead that lead to days like still eventually still after like scenario definitely it has to be like Naruto that could be leading becoming like Sasuke and leading actually this might be along the line like that secret keep the like the Raya might be secretly having that make my the brain which is definitely this might be the reason for like the Raya specifically wanting Naruto to accompany him on his like journey to like my scenario definitely my origins that might be definitely Jiraiya's secret plan to like simply without Naruto realizing to that so that along the journeys to find to narrate that you all that extreme training to that Naruto to that point exactly so that Naruto for that eventual point was like Naruto and that basically like really get Naruto ready to that basically to that that's that's a bigger like to the other big scenario uh by the time like it's like would be time for that scenario to that stand down that like on like the level they have to say like scenario like by then like to have like another copy already to that it becomes like a story and here the base definitely might be very and it might be last in terms of like through the app is definitely might also be very important